Good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's webinar on the key capabilities of Assemble to leverage in 2017. Now let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to today's speakers, Don Henrik and Tim Kelly of Assemble. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you, Samira. I'd like to start by sharing our agenda with you for today. We expect the agenda to take about 30 minutes. And first, I'd like to introduce both myself and Tim and give you a little bit of background as presenters. So I'll start with my colleague, Tim Kelly. Tim has worked as a project manager at a general contractor for years in different large projects around the country, and now leads our product management role at Assemble. I am what we call the D in 5D. I was part of a small team who named the connection from 3D modeling to estimating 5D. And in the past 15 years, I've worked with many of the products you use every day, and I'm very excited to be here at Assemble. So let's talk about BIM in 2017. Now that the new year is here, we all know there's a great deal of construction. Every city that I go to, I see lots of cranes and a great deal of activity, and there's a lot of excitement. The cloud is everywhere. 4 years ago, no one wanted cloud. Today, the cloud is widely accepted, and that's important. It's important to us, and it's important to you. It makes life much easier. And BIM and VDC continue to roll, and they become more and more important. They also reached adoption rate of near 70% with the general contractors in North America. And 3/4 of the contractors who were surveyed reported a positive ROI for BIM. So there's goodness in it there, and we're going to show you some of that today. Now let's talk about some general trends in our industry. As we said a moment ago, BIM and VDC become more important. So that means that 3D models become the centerpiece of where we hang our data. So it's important that you can associate metadata with a BIM object. And you don't just have the visual of it, but you have all of the properties, all of the metadata, and that you can add and modify many more things. That's some of what we will show you today. So 3D continues to grow. Scanning, another form of 3D, is growing very quickly. Scanning in the past has been used to visualize a workspace or a space to be renovated. It is now used for quality control to ensure flatness of cement floors or the proper dimensions on a steel beam. And some of the more advanced uses today are now tracking work in place. So I can actually scan an area and get either the area or the volume of material that has been moved. So a lot more applications for scanning. Scanning is becoming more and more valuable to us, and that will be key for us and our Assemble customers. Finally, video, sensors, and wearables all kind of blend together, and they're all becoming part of the IT framework of construction, making it faster, smarter, and most importantly, safer to perform our work. Now let's talk about why people love Assemble. In the world of Assemble, there's almost no system management, almost no administration, and that allows the users to focus on their day job, which is typically working on construction projects. New users can be trained in very short periods of time. I know our formal training class is 2 hours, and our advanced training class adds a half an hour. So, in today's very, very busy world, that's very important. There are no licenses, so a project is licensed for all users. So another way to say that is unlimited users. And maybe most importantly for the construction industry, we're connected to the world's most powerful application, Excel. Of course, we are also very lovable, but really what I mean by that and why people love using Assemble is because it's easy. Very, very easy. So Assemble is a data management system that unlocks the power of 3D models. And this allows you to publish your models, federate them together, manage them, condition them, as Tim will show you later, and share them. So it's a very, very easy way to hang data or to create a visual representation of a task that needs to be performed. Also, if you define things like P6 and Timberline and Procore as systems of record, then we can define Assemble as a system of engagement, which we'll talk about more in a moment. In the current slide, you see some of our customers. Many companies have standardized on Assemble as their model and soon their drawing viewer. And the reason for this is it is easy to use and it connects them to their other applications. So let's look at that as 5 key points. There are 5 key points or 5 key capabilities to Assemble. The first is that it's SaaS, and we've spoken about that. Very easy to use, unlimited licensing, etc., unlimited users. The second, and Tim will show you this, so I won't tell you too much about it, is conditioning. And conditioning I define, and so does Webster, as the ability to make something ready for use. So we know that there's often a lot of data we get with a project, and what Assemble allows you to do is quickly condition that data, make it ready for your teams. Parametric connections we will show you today to these independent systems of record that are so important to your business. I mentioned a few before. And then synchronize and store, which is the ability to capture snapshots of your project each week and store them as versions and be able to, whenever you have new model data, you have new submissions from the design team, to be able to review the changes and compare the results and the differences. And then finally, of course, reporting on projects. So since you can federate models, for example, we have customers who have large projects with 70 to 80 models in them, and they can federate all these models or put all these models together with a common origin point and report quantities across the entire project. Very, very, very powerful. So those are our 5 key points. And now I'd like to turn control over to Tim Kelly, who will give you a little more detail and show you this in the system. Thanks, Tim.
I appreciate it, Don. So we're going to jump into a few slides here about the 5 key points Don mentioned here, and I'll be moving in and out of the slides and into our product, into the Assemble application. So at the end, we'll go through any questions you may have. Again, as a reminder, feel free to plug those questions into the questions box in GoToWebinar. So as Don mentioned, we're web-based. There's no download or install of any software when you're accessing the models, and that means that you can quickly get into your project and look at one or many models across your project. If you're not publishing and you're the consumer of this data, that's quick and easy access once you're invited to the project. Whether you're looking at all of the models or trying to find the doors to look at the hardware package for Area A, room 152, you can very quickly get down to that level of detail just by logging in and getting into that information. So really quick, I'm just going to jump into our application. Right here, I'm in a Chrome window. It's as simple as logging in, and once you've logged in, let me put in my right password. It's as simple as remembering your password and logging in with the right password, and you have access to all of your projects right here. So once I've jumped in and I get into the project that is interesting to me, as you can see here, I've got my list of models and then my list of views that are essentially shortcuts to get into the particular components you want to see. So there's no go find the current version of the model, download it, have the right software to open it up. It's all right there online for your use. Jumping back into the slides. The next point Don mentioned, and he talked a bit about the definition of conditioning, is in my mind, we're looking at it as a verb, right? The condition to make ready for use means we're taking something that was built for some other practice or purpose and making it ready for our use and our purpose. And us in the GC space, the BIM guys that have been in this space, we're very familiar with the idea that we're consuming models from the AE community, and the purpose of an architect or an engineer to create a model is different than what our consumption is of that model. So we have to take that data and augment it. Some of that means we need to change how it's organized or structured so that it fits our scheduling purposes. Others means we need to add in cost code or subcontractor information so that it allows us to organize the model in that ways. Any of these alterations or additions allow us to dig more readily into, again, that particular door package that might be interesting to us at some given point in time during the project. So really quickly, we're going to jump back into Assemble here and look at, I have some interior partitions. And on these interior partitions, the architect did add the type mark, and they've used the type mark to actually plug in that information across all of my sheets. But what's particularly interesting for this application, or what I want to go do, is add the fire rating. And the fire rating isn't here, but very quickly within Assemble, I can start to populate that information. So I can select some objects or a group of objects, and I can see I have these assemble properties, which allow me to augment the data that's coming from the model. And then I also have my model properties. You see here that I can go in and I can actually, within our application, plug in the information about that particular set of walls. Additionally, there's either that way of going through and doing it piece by piece and stepping through the model within Assemble, but you can also, as Don mentioned, work in Excel. Many of those that you work with across your team might not be familiar with models at all, but I think everyone on this call would know that anyone in our industry uses Excel fairly extensively. So if we take this information out to Excel, we can actually leverage the type marks here and the way I've got these groups set up within Assemble to quickly structure or bring in the data that we need to bring. So you see here, I actually am bringing this down, and I've got fire rating that I want to fill in, I've got fit package, and I've also got cost code. I want to go populate these pieces off of my type marks here. So I can step through here, and I can either do this through some lookups if I need, the lookup table type things, or I can just key them in. So I've gone ahead and I've pre-populated this so that you guys don't need to watch me go populate this information here. And now I can pull that back into Assemble. So I go in here and I import from Excel. I've now conditioned this data. It's ready to bring back into our model. And I can bring that back in right here and accept these changes. And you'll see now this is all populated with that information. Ultimately, we have that direct connection between our system and Excel, but then also between the authoring system. So if you want to get that information back into the Revit model, you can then move even further upstream by adding that information back into the native file. So to jump to the next point, Don mentioned connecting to other systems of record. As an organization, Assemble looks at the industry as having some key points or key pieces of software that fit different needs. And ultimately, as an organization, we want to bring in or connect your team to all of that data in a seamless manner. So rather than forcing an organization to change a system or to use a particular system, and in our mind, we want to share that data in the capacity of allowing you to take this information and put it into other systems, or organize the other information and bring it into the model, but Parametric can connect those two systems together so that you have this a seamless interaction of data. In my mind, when you go down this path, you ultimately, as you're sharing this data across your project team, and again, whether that's part of your team or your owner or your subcontractors, as you're sharing this, you have more consumers of that information. When you step through the process of creating more consumers of that information, you ultimately also create more authors of this data. And then when you have more authors of this data, you have more consumers. And then the idea there is that you tend to spread this model information virally across your project team. And rather than trying to force model information on them, people begin asking, hey, I need this information, and I've used it in the model before, and now I have access to it. It would be helpful to see it in this format. So I've seen this kind of interaction happen across the owners of a project managers, subcontractors. Ultimately, the idea is to get this set of project information out in front of your entire team as you step through the construction process. Let me really quickly show you an example of one of our integrations we have here. And each of these integration points we're taking iteratively as we step through it. We're going to continue to develop what kind of data we're able to share. But ultimately, I'm inside of a Procore project here, and if you guys aren't familiar with Procore, they are a project document management system that allow you to manage anything from your bid packages to your RFIs to your submittals and project documents or drawings. And ultimately now you have access to your model views in that same environment. So you can get in here and actually look at your model packages, and I'm going to open up a view from Assemble. And back to that point of parametric connection. This is ultimately creating a view that is a live look into Assemble. So as this is loading here, I'm actually getting information that's live within Assemble, and it's not a static point in time. So that means that if I have updated my model set and I'm looking at the most current model set in Assemble, that here within our partner applications, you're able to look at that most current set as well. So this is actually our exterior masonry package, and I've got this information organized by activity. And so I can very quickly see here my quantities and my information based on these activities within the Procore application. So then jumping back into our next point in Don's 5 key points here is that we're able to keep a repository of all of your project information in one central location. So you can sync and store that data from your different systems into Assemble, and you're able to keep essentially an audit trail as you step through the project. Combining all of this allows you to have a repository for weekly versions if you want, and then you can analyze that as things change week over week. So whether that's bulletins issued and the models change, or that's information coming from the schedule or project set in Procore, you're able to look at that information week over week and understand the cost or the schedule impacts or anything else that's related to managing the risk on the project. It's very quick and easy to look at this, and I'm going to quickly show an example of how we would look at changes across versions of a model, and that each time you publish a model, we're capturing an individual point in time of version. So each new version we have published into Assemble is actually a static point, and you can go back to the data set that's part of that version. Then when you have multiple versions of any set of models, I've got a ductwork model here for a level 3 on a small area of a project, and I can isolate that and I can look at the changes between those two iterations. Furthermore, I can look at the changes of any of the quantities, cost impact across those two versions or any other previous versions. So again, that audit trail, I can step back a week, a month, or to the very first iteration of when this model was published and analyze the changes between those systems. And then last on our bullet points here is about being able to analyze a project as a whole and report on it. Don mentioned before that whether you have one model on a project and you're looking at a small facility, or 85 models or 130 models, you're able to bring those all together in one common environment. When you're able to do that, you can consistently look at a consolidated format of the information you're interested in. So if you're looking to combine this information for a federated takeoff and drill down into some particular components, I'm looking at structural steel with the ductwork got isolated here in this screenshot. You're able to very quickly get into what that information is and create reports on it. Again, the reporting might be as simple as creating an inventory within our system here, and then it might be very complex of taking this out into Excel or downstream it into a business intelligence application that you're able to create, data analytics on one particular value or across all of your projects and looking at historical job costs. Having all of this in a common data environment allows you to take that look very quickly. So in that regard, I just have a number of models here, and I'm actually showing that I've got about 12 models in this project, and I'm organized currently by category, and all of the different models have all the different categories dropped into the same environment. And I can actually change how I have that organized in the data that I have represented here, and what you're going to see is that across all of those models, we're pulling that information together. So for a facility, again, that's large or small, you have many different models and you may have many different versions, and ultimately we're providing a very clean and concise way to look at the information in your project. So with all of that said, that can result in, as I mentioned, cost or quantities, but it can also be quality of the model if you're tracking information for turnover. And that can be related to COBie data, and you can dig into that specific data set. Or it can be related to how you're managing bid packages and closing out your model documentation. Or that can be reporting on scheduling information and bringing in data from the schedule here. The list goes on, and we ultimately can pull in that data and keep it consistent for your team. So with that said, I would like to thank everyone for attending and hanging out with us today.